Kelly, welcome to Growing Pains. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm very happy to be here.
I'm also very excited to learn more about you, learn about exactly what you do, how you help moms, specifically staff like house management, and do that really well inside of their homes. So I know for sure for folks listening, they're like, girls, just get into the content. Like, let's just do this because maybe this is something that folks have been meaning for a while. Maybe they don't know how to start, or they don't even know how to get like emotionally ready for something like this inside of their home and in their life. But first, tell me about your business and exactly what you do. And also tell me about the family that you have at home.
Yeah, I love that you want to just get right into meat and potatoes because I'm like, I am a super action oriented person, which is what you'll find out about me. So really quickly, I am a mom of 3 kids born within a 4-year time frame. So I've got a almost 6-year-old, 4-year-old, 2-year-old, and we live in Portland, Oregon. My husband is a small business owner. He runs a technology investment bank. I just left my career. I spent a decade in software sales, so selling database software. And I am now the founder of Sage Haus, which is a platform helping busy parents, most of the time moms, to outsource the mental load. And basically, all of that means is I help them find and hire the right support for their family, which for me, what I specialize in is house managers and family assistants.
That is so amazing. I wonder, like, what was the spark? Like, why did you decide to leave sales and technology sales and go into health management?
Yeah, well, first of all, it was a really big leap because I had a really cushy, flexible job. So, but what I will say, I'm like still trying to figure that out. But no, my Sage House was born from my own experience and the complete transformation that finding and hiring my village made for me and my family. I'll give you a little bit of the backstory, which is I went into parenthood with a lot of gusto. When I had my first, I was still like full-time working mom. I thought I was going to be a do-it-aller. I watched my mom do that. I thought I can do this. And then once we had our second, the wheels really started falling off the bus. And I really felt like, oh my gosh, this is so overwhelming. Even though I have full-time childcare, I still feel overwhelmed with all of the other things that it takes to manage my household and keep everybody happy and healthy and thriving. So all of that to say, what I did was what many type A moms do, which is I made a big long list of all of the things that I was doing to manage our household. And most of that included like a lot of the physical labor that I was spending my time on. I allocated time to each of those tasks. And I basically brought it to my husband and said, hey, I'm spending 22 hours a week managing our household on top of my full-time job. This is unsustainable for me. And I see where I'm going, and that is to burnout. And neither of us want that. So he looked at it and said, this looks like a job description. And I said, that's because it is. And so that was sort of like the aha moment and the spark for me and my own family to seek help. And so what we did was we put that out in the universe, and we ended up finding a wonderful person who could help us on a part-time basis to manage our household. Because of how transformative that was, it wasn't even just about me getting those 22 hours a week back. In fact, we started her at like 10 to 12 hours a week, but then we slowly gave her more and more. It wasn't just about that. It was about the mental capacity that I ended up getting back and the ability for me to be more present in everything that I was doing in my job, when I was in a work meeting, when I was with my kids, when I was with my partner. And it was so life-changing that I started talking about it to other people and friends, even though I did fear judgment. We can talk about that in a little bit. But I started sharing this huge win. Like, hey guys, I think I cracked the code. And I was actually met and received with so much positivity and support. And people, instead of saying, I can't believe she has that kind of help, or I can't believe that, they were like, how do I get this? I was getting phone calls from friends of friends. Hey, Kel, I heard you cracked the code. How do I figure out how to operationalize my home, how to hire more help? Because I also don't live close to family. So anyway, that was the start of Sage House, which was just like other moms expressing interest and saying like, I need this kind of help that you found. How do I follow your sort of playbook and path to getting there? And so voila, Sage House was born.
Oh my gosh. Honestly, I am so excited for you that you were so encouraged like on your personal journey because we talked a little bit before we press record that like some moms don't have that experience. Like some are met with, well, how dare she hire that into her home? Or who does she think she is? Like J-Lo, you need a house manager, whatever that looks like. And so talk to me about that because I know you work with parents on this in your programs and in your cohort. What are you hearing from some folks when they're like sharing either with friends, family, community members, colleagues that they've decided to hire in this type of help?
So what I will say is one bad apple can ruin the bunch or whatever that saying is. But what I've found is the bunch, AKA the majority of people are leaning in to wanting moms and busy parents and working households and to feel supported and to get the help that they need. Like times are changing. We are now in a completely new cultural movement, if you will, of moms saying, hey, I don't want to be super mom. I don't want to do it all because I watched my mom do it all and it was detrimental to her long-term mental, physical health. I would say mostly it's being really well received. Like, yes, it's scary, but I would say it is being well received. Now, all of that to say, I do small group cohorts where I walk women through and teach them the hiring method that I use when I work with one-on-one clients to basically teach them how to fish and teach them how to find and hire their own house managers and family assistants and also set up home systems, which we can also talk about. But in this small group cohort, we were actually just this week in a stage of most of the moms were posting their job descriptions. They're going out on social media platforms, Facebook, care.com, all of these sort of platforms, which by the way, we've historically used for care, childcare, like nannies. But now there's this sort of new concept of like, maybe I already have childcare or my kids are school age and I need help with things aside from childcare. I think for so long, our society has said to us, oh, you're a mom who needs help. You need a nanny. Or your mom who needs help. You need childcare. What if we actually want to spend time with our kids and spend time with our family instead of all the other things we're spending time with around the clock to try and fit in laundry, dishwashers, like errands, all of those other things. So all that to say, these moms have been posting roles and some of them have received like mean, bullying, like shaming, guilt tripping comments from traditional, conservative, whatever you want to call it, but people who get really uncomfortable and triggered at a woman asking for help. And it's so funny because we were talking in my group cohort about how when a working mom puts out an ad for a house manager or a family assistant, how the way that that's received, it could be very, very different from, for example, a single working dad posting the same role, asking for more help in his household. Like same job, same description, received differently because of this perception that women should be able to handle it all, are conditioned already to handle it all. They're better at multitasking, all these things that are like absolutely not true, but have been ingrained in us in this like culture and society. So all that to say, times are changing. We're at the beginning of a movement. Moms are saying no more. I need more help. And it's okay to go and ask for it.
Yeah, I love the point that you brought up, Kelly, around like not just defaulting to childcare, because I actually had a very similar conversation with our nanny. I was like, hey, listen, we need childcare 12 hours a week. I was like, that's what we need for our family. And I don't anticipate that growing anymore because I want to be with my kids. My husband wants to be with our kids. Like, that's exactly how we want to do that. And I think it is true that we always default to childcare. And then all of a sudden, you've got someone who is spending time with your kids. You've got someone who's playing with them on the floor, doing the Play-Doh, doing all the stuff. And then you're upstairs doing the laundry. And it just doesn't feel like the right way, at least for our family. And what we decided, we were like, this just doesn't feel like the right way to allocate our time.
Right. Yeah, exactly. No, I think you're right. I think it's a reframe, but it's thinking through, how are we valuing our time? How do I think about my day and my week and my month and my year? And what do I want for myself? What do I want for my family? How do I want to be spending my time? Our time is so valuable and it is so finite. And I think if we can be more intentional about sort of like breaking these cultural norms of like, this is how we should do things. It's sort of like the 4-day work week or the, what am I thinking of? The
4-hour work week. Yeah.
Oh, 4 hour. Thank you.
Yeah.
4-hour work week. I'm thinking 4-day because I've implemented my own 4-day work week because I take Fridays off for like literally for self-care. I go to a tennis class. Like while I have childcare, I'm taking care of myself. I meet with my friend for lunch. Anyway, but yeah, it's like the same concept. It's like, how are we being really intentional with our time and how do we want to spend it? So
okay, so I love this. And I think like I love to get tactical too. It sounds like you also do. So let me ask this. Is the very first step, or like if a mom listening to this is like, whew, okay, I'm not alone. I do feel like I need some more help, like with all the things going on to manage my home. Is the very first step like writing everything down, like exactly like you did?
yes, but no. And here's why I say yes, but no. I've already done a lot of that work for you. So don't go and start from ground zero. Instead, go onto my website, mysagehaus.com. We'll put it in the show notes here probably. And go to, you can take this free quiz. I created this sort of back-end application on my website where you can take an 8-question quiz and the results of that quiz actually give you that big, long, holistic list of all of the things that you're probably doing managing your household today with the assigned time. And what it does is it populates a dashboard for you. So like in 2 minutes, go onto my website, go and see how much time you're spending today managing your household. And that is what I would say is like the beginning. It's like audit your time. How are you spending your time today? And then use that and leverage that similarly to how I did. If you do have a partner, leverage that to go and start having the conversation about how you're spending your time and how you want to spend your time. Yeah, I would say like tactic, like, and this is really scary for a lot of people because I think finally seeing how many hours or minutes they're spending, because all those 2-minute tasks, by the way, really add up. Like,
sure do.
Emptying your coffee filter and taking out the garbage and unloading the dishwasher. I mean, all of a sudden you're like 90 minutes in and you're like, oh, well, it's just better that I do it, or something like that. And it's like, well, guess what? Someone else can do it too. You can delegate those tasks and you can, as a result, get a bunch of time back. Yeah, I would say yes, start there, but don't go in by yourself because that's kind of scary.
Have you seen success, Kelly, in training like a current nanny or somebody who's, with your kiddos into a house manager? Because that's what we did. And honestly, it was kind of a game changer because I felt like I like backed into it or eased into it, right? So she was with the kiddos for about 12 hours a week. And then because she knew our family, because she knew what the preferences of my kiddos were, she was able to start helping me with things like laundry and putting toys away and scheduling us for different types of family activities, like getting tickets to the aquarium and those types of little things where like it'll sit on my to-do list for like 3 weeks. And then I'll be like, oh crap, we've been meaning to take the kids to the aquarium and it's just never happened. But she would like get them and put it on my calendar. And it felt like a really nice ease of entry into like trust and understanding and all that stuff.
Absolutely. And that is the kind of person who, yeah, you already feel really comfortable with your family. They know you. And a lot of nannies want to take on additional responsibilities and really like expand their role. And so yes, the short answer is yes. What I have seen is as, a family goes from sort of like infant to toddlers to that now school age kids, what I'm seeing is parents realizing, wow, our nanny brings us so much value aside from the childcare and watching our kids. Like a lot of nannies do the kid laundry, prep meals for the kids, all those things you just described. And when suddenly their kids go off to kindergarten and their nanny's gone, they're like, oh my gosh, there's so much more on my plate. And so, yes, one of the things, in fact, I would say 30% of the women in my existing cohort joined because they are transitioning an existing nanny into a house manager. And that is in itself nuanced because sure, even though you're not necessarily having to go through those steps of like a hiring process or a hiring method to find the person, there's still a lot that has to happen once you find the right person to make sure that they're successful in the role. So that what kicks in there and what we talk about in my cohort is creating home systems that are repeatable. And basically everyone has agreed upon, there are owners for specific it's kind of like division of labor, but instead of being between you and your partner, there's another person who you can start to like divide this invisible labor in your home and create systems around, like you mentioned, feeding the family, laundry schedules, cleaning schedules, daily routines, evening routines. What do things have to happen on a monthly, a weekly, seasonal basis to help us like run our home, maintain our home and our cars and our bikes, all of that stuff. And so I think that can be incredibly valuable. And in fact, I have a guide. I think I have this 16-page free guide that's called How to Transition Your Nanny to a House Manager that I put together. It's like 5 steps on how to go from there to, yay, we have a house manager now.
Well, how do we know, right? So my family had nannies and all the things. Like, how do we know from like a personality trait perspective? Like, okay, cool, this nanny would probably be a really great house manager. Like, what are some of those attributes that we can start to look for? And this could be for our nanny that we currently have, or in the process of even like vetting and hiring somebody to come into the house. Like, who are we looking for exactly?
Here's how I describe a house manager to somebody. Some people, by the way, say family assistant. To me, it's a very similar role. Unless, there are some people who think the word house manager and they think like, oh, they're managing an estate. Like they're managing people who manage an estate. Like, no,
like the folks who can cut the lawn and trim the hedges.
I'm not a Kardashian. Okay. Like I'm a real person for a long time. Like me and my spouse, when we hired a house manager, we were living on one income. It was mine. He was starting a business. Like, this isn't for the rich and famous. Okay. I just want to like be really, really, really clear.
Yes.
But in personality trait wise, that's one of the questions I ask when I work one-on-one with families. Like, what are you kind of looking for in this person? But I describe a house manager as like this unicorn that's kind of like someone who you could trust with your kids. So kind of has like those nanny and maybe childcare, like really caregiving traits. Someone who's kind of like a personal assistant. So someone who is like really proactive, detail-oriented, organized, and you kind of like mesh those two things together and voila, you have like this amazing personal assistant, house manager, nanny who kind of like has all of these skills and can help you on the versatile tasks that, that we take on day to day. It's funny because I would say moms mostly have inherently developed a lot of these skills. I think for nannies, like sometimes they see a mom doing a lot of things and they think, oh, I'd be really good at that. Maybe I should give that a shot. I could manage the Costco orders. I can spread my wings and do more. So yeah, I think it's just really looking for someone who you would almost trust to like, run your home like a business.
I love that. Because I think like we do a lot of things intentionally in our businesses, right? To set them up for success. We plan ahead, we create systems, we hire really great people that can do things that we can't do. But then when it comes to the house side of things, we're supposed to just like know how to do every single thing and be, I guess, excited, enthusiastic to do stuff that like is ancillary to like our job or our business or whatever it is that we're doing. And yeah, it feels kind of nebulous, right? Like it feels a little bit like we're not sure where to start. I'm so glad that you have these resources because I think folks will at least understand kind of where to go and like how to begin. I think something that was challenging for me, wondering if you've heard this too, is just like having somebody else in your space. We're big time, like Steve and me, my husband, we're hibernators. We can be social. We love hanging out with pals and family and things like that. Do lots of things with the kids, love to go outdoors and hike. But then like when we're in our home, sometimes, and this was hard early on, like we're just like, this is our space. Like we're going to be here. We're going to be with our family. So have you experienced that? Do moms, especially type A moms, because like I would consider myself type A. I like my stuff the way I like it. And so like I tended to go a little bit more on the processed side. And that at times it kind of felt to me, and this is me saying this to myself, this isn't somebody else saying this to me. I was like, oh, I'm bulldozing this person who like is supposed to be here helping me. And I'm like, nope, I want this lined up this way. So how do you like bridge that with like getting comfortable with somebody else in your space and also being able to speak up and advocate for yourself when like stuff isn't the way that you want it?
Yeah. No, you bring up two really good things. I would say the first, getting comfortable with someone in your space. I mean, I think most people experience this. My husband, for sure, also had this very like, what do you mean someone's going to be here
I feel like
during the
dad.
day? Yeah. Especially because a lot of us work from home, right? So it's not like it's not like invisible. It's like, yeah, somebody's kind of in your space. But I will say that, first of all, I think it's important to sort of like have someone in your space during certain times where you kind of just like know they will be there and have that and set the expectations that like, yeah, someone else will be there. For us, that's why we don't have someone come every single day. It's really important for us to kind of like have our home just for multiple days a week.
Mhm.
So typically we have a house manager come 3 days a week, which again, I think you can get so much value from like a part-time role. And that
Mhm.
is mainly the roles that I'm placing for families as part-time. But then and I will say that the positives outweigh the negatives because now my husband is like, we could never live without our house manager. He's like, she's amazing. Like, I can't believe that slept in those pajamas last night and they're clean today. It blows his mind. And then the other thing you mentioned is like delegating. This is really, really personal. I think one thing we talk about in my cohort is like, it just all comes down to expectations and like setting really clear roles and responsibilities to be able to delegate. And the truth is even though we feel a little bit like micromanagey, which is kind of what you were describing, like, oh gosh, I totally feel like I'm bulldozing this person. Like this person who is in your home and wants this job and like wants to do it right. They want to get it right. They want to be successful. And so I think it's just a matter of like giving them all of the tools they need, including your like specific instructions to get it done the right way. And so I think like if we can start like reframing that mindset of like, oh gosh, I can't believe I'm like telling her I want my jeans washed cold inside out. It's like, it's okay. Like that's, like that's what they signed up for. And by the way, that was, it was really clear that like these are the roles and responsibilities. So I think a lot of it just comes down to like feedback loops. We talk a lot about like having feedback loops coming both ways in this role, having clear communication. And then, one thing I just actually developed for my cohort this week was an example agenda for like the beginning of the week as you're kicking off your house manager for the beginning of the week. It's like, okay, here are the urgent items for our house that we need for our household this week. Like, here's the crazy change in schedule. Here's all of the things. Like, here's what we're thinking about meal prepping. It's just like you said, it's like how we are in our professional life, in our career, in our business as managers. We're really good at this. We're really good at delegating. We're really good at communicating. If we start to bring some of those principles into our home, we can find a very similar like level of success.
I love that. And honestly, I remember when we first started this process, I like didn't know what I didn't know. So like first time laundry was folded for my kids, I saw it on our armchair and I started crying. I was just like, I can't believe that I don't have to do this right now.
Magic.
And I could literally just be with my family without thinking in the back of my brain, like, oh yeah, I have laundry to fold, or oh yeah, I have to put that away. I just put it away and then they moved on. But I think in the beginning too, for us, like we just didn't know what we didn't know. So when you talk about like, yeah, washing the jeans cold inside out, like you might not know that at first. So I want to encourage women listening, like, yes, take Kelly's systems, swipe all of the tasks and all the things, but like there are going to be things and nuances in your own house. And that was true for me that like I just didn't know that I wanted until we were kind of in the thick of it. So I love that you brought up the feedback loop too, because that was a big important piece for us. And we just did like a once a week thing at the end of the week. So like on Wednesday before she would go home, I would be like, hey, listen, here are the things. This was the feedback. You did this really well. We also found value in a hybrid or a part-time role and a hybrid work from home and also work at our home. So like there are things that totally our house manager could only do at our house. And things like booking the kids' aquarium tickets or like helping me map out stops like on a road trip for a vacation that we were going to take, like stuff again that just kind of sits in the back of your brain. She would just go home and then put all that stuff together and then send me over a Google Doc and be like, this is all the stuff that I put together for you. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Or she would do like our Costco orders from her house. Which was super, super neat because then it would just get delivered and then she would put everything away and she could do it on her time. So that was amazingly helpful. I wonder if you see folks doing like hybrids, like home and also in your house.
Yes, I certainly see people doing that sort of hybrid model. So, two things. One, there are so many companies popping up in this space to support family. So like, this has existed for a long time as like a personal assistant or an executive assistant for people in their professional life. But now there are companies that support families from like remotely. So top of mind, like Sundays is a company that has dedicated personal assistants that you can get. There are also a lot of AI tools like Duckbill that, they can actually get stuff done for you remotely. The difference is, right, like having someone actually physically in your space can help with a ton of physical tasks. And I don't think that's ever really going away. Like, I mean, not until we become the Jetsons. So, so I think people are like, there are so many great solutions out there now where people can like do it in a lot of different ways. And sometimes I feel like that's sort of their like entryway into a house manager physically in their space is like having help remotely or having help in this sort of like hybrid type role. But I love to see it. I love that there are like, we're finally to a point of like, instead of spiraling in our despair as parents feeling overwhelmed, which by the way, the US Surgeon General also has now validated us. Thank you.
Finally.
That we're like,
didn't need it, but we got it.
Right. And so now it's so nice that there are solutions out there. One of the applications that I use personally in my own home and also highly recommend to other families who are working to collaborate with either their partner or a house manager or a family assistant is called Maple. And Maple is this wonderful app that allows you to not only share calendars, but also have one pane of glass for everything going on in your household and being able to manage all those lists and routines and meal prep and everything we just talked about. And so that is also another really cool solution.
Yeah, I love that. What about the kids? I mean, we've talked about how mom deals, how dad is like, okay, maybe someone's in my space. I don't love this, but eventually they come around. What about the kids? I heard a story on one of the mastermind calls I was on, like, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 months ago or so. And he was talking about how they had a house manager and he's very clear with their kids. He's like, the house manager doesn't clean up after you. Like they have very, very specific rules about how that happens. So have you come across that or do you use that with your own family?
Yeah. So, well, first of all, I will say that I think I mentioned this. We don't live close to family here in Portland, Oregon. I grew up in Tucson, Arizona. My husband grew up in New York State. And so we're kind of far from family. And so having additional grown-up role models that are just around our kids and around our home is overall net a very positive experience. I would say it is lovely to see our kids have relationships with other grown-ups that they can trust, that know are part of their support system, that take care of them. For us, like, it's just amazing that we can literally breeze out the door on a Friday night at 6 p.m. for a date. Our house manager watches our kids every Friday for a couple hours so we can go on a date night. They know it's date night. Our kids are like, bye, mom and dad, have fun. And then they're like, see you later. And then they're like stoked because our house manager has like a fun activity ready for them. Anyway, I will say those same things. So I think it is nuanced. I think some people hear the term house manager and they're like, oh, you just have a maid or a housekeeper that cleans up after your family. That must be so nice. No, that's actually not the case. We have systems, again, home systems in our home to motivate and incentivize our children to learn how to take care of their things, how to make their bed, pick up their toys, get ready for the morning. We have a whole checklist that they go through. Our kids know that they can't have dessert after dinner until they help clean up. Like, our house manager typically leaves around dinner times to give us that time as a family. And like, our kids, like, they get out the stuff, they wipe down the table, they get out the vacuum and they help. And so I think it's not like my children aren't learning, or there should be a fear of like children not learning sort of like how to work hard or how to, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, totally. I think it's helpful to bring up kind of what we were talking about with that negative stigma, the judgment, the guilt, even sometimes that moms feel is like, oh, wow, I learned how to do all this stuff on my own. And I want to make sure that my kids understand that they need to like, be the stewards over their own life and their own service and all the things. And, I haven't had that experience with our kids. Our kids are very young. So like, I think they do need to be picked up after like a lot. So those types of things I think are just stuff that I've heard and think about often, right? As like the kids get older, like how do we kind of separate the division of labor there to let the kids still feel like they're super involved? Kelly, this was amazing. And I think my final question, first of all, you gave us so many amazing resources, and we're going to link all of those in the show notes, from the AI information and all of the resources that you shared about your quiz and your position on how to switch from nanny to house manager. But give some folks some more information. Where can they follow along with you? Where can they learn more about what you're doing and start to kind of get in your ecosystem around how they can get this type of support inside their home?
Yeah, for sure. Well, a couple of ways. So, one is I've got a ton of free resources on my Stand store through my Instagram. So, go follow me at my Sage Haus and go snag all of those free things. I will have a 12 days of giving coming up around the holidays. I'm not sure when this episode goes live, but the other thing is twice a year, I do a small group cohorts for busy worky parents to help them create home systems and teach them the hiring method, and give them all of those resources. I also work one-on-one with families who are like, Kelly, find me my unicorn. I'm like, cool, I'll help you. Honestly, like however you need support in your home, I'm happy to help. DM me, get in touch somehow, and we'll make it happen.
It's so exciting. Honestly, you guys take Kelly up. I personally have seen a lot of her content. It's super, super good, really actionable and helpful. If you've been thinking about doing this, definitely do it. I think over the holidays too, like for us, we hired both of our nanny/house managers over holiday periods. And it was actually super nice because it was like less pressure. It was very hybrid. It was very part-time. It was like, hey, come over a day or two. And then we really would like hit the first of the year, feeling like we were in a position where we had some incredible support. So this could definitely be something that moms and dads get some support with as they enter 2025, which is very, very exciting.
Yeah, it is. It is. And that's one of the reasons I run my cohort at the beginning of the year. So like in February, so that you can also get set up for success for the year ahead. But yes, I agree. There's any time of the year is a good time to find and hire your village. But I agree.
That's amazing. Kelly, thank you so much for your time today. I'm wondering, do you have any final thoughts or words you want to share with moms listening who are in the thick of growing businesses and raising families at home?
I think there's a lot out there to get discouraged by. As a parent, I think we're faced with a lot. We carry a really heavy load. And I would just say, like, don't get down and discouraged, because again, there are so many solutions out there. There are so many people who want to support you and see you be happy and thriving, including your own family. So do whatever you need to do to just get rid of the noise and do what's best for your family.
Love that. I really do. Kelly, this has been inspirational. I'm sure a lot of moms listening to feel like they got a little bit of a soul hug and some permission to, I don't know, like go with the laundry and just be with their family. So thanks so much for taking the time.
Sure. No problem. Thanks so much for having me.